Let's take a look at how to calculate the discounted payback period of the same project. Again, this is the project example from our previous NPV calculation, and this was taken from the lecture slides that showed a particular project with an outflow in year 0 and inflows in years 1 through 5. Same values we're using, same discounted rate of 8.5%. And we pretty much have all of the information in our previous calculation, but what I've done is I've stripped it away. So here's where we had all the information prior, up to column D. All of the calculations are the same. I just wanted to show it separately, but when you're doing your calculations, you don't necessarily have to have separate tabs. You can do this in the same table, just create additional columns off to the side, and you can do all your calculations in one place. So again, same cash flows, right? The discount multiplier is going to be the same for each year. The discount rate of 8.5% is still applicable. I mean, again, we're comparing the same project and it's the same conditions. And our discounted cash flows, which are the future value times the discounted multiplier in terms of today's present value dollars. And the way that discounted payback period is calculated. Now, before I go into that, keep in mind you can actually have two types of payback calculations. Payback in the normal sense that does not consider discounted dollars. So we can calculate the payback period without discounting. So in this case, we spent $1,000 and we're not converting the 200, the 400, the 500, all the way through the 600 in terms of present values. We just look to see when the project turns positive using those non-discounted values. That's something that we don't show in this demonstration, but I want you to be aware that the process is the same. It's just you do the calculation without taking in account the discounted cash flows, which we have in column D. So really, the way that this calculation works is we take whatever we have in year 0, and in this case, it's a negative value because it's an expenditure. We've spent $1,000 developing this widget. In year 2, we expect to see revenues of $200. But understanding that we have to convert that future value into a present value, it's more closer to $184.33 in terms of today's dollars. And what we do then is we simply add the $184.33 to the $1,000 expenditure, and we've recouped, if you want to look at it, we've recouped $184.33. And so right now we are still in the red, if you want to look at it that way, of $815.67. So after year 1, the project has returned an amount that has offset the costs. Now what we do is in year 2, we've projected $400 of revenue, which translate to $339 in present value. And we add the $339.78 to our balance of $815.67. And we find that we are now still in the red. We're still not positive in terms of recouping our investment, but we're closer. And we're at $475.89. Likewise, year 3, $500 in projected revenues, which translate to $391.46 in terms of present dollars or present value. That value, again, it's a benefit, so it's offsetting some of the outstanding costs, the money that we're trying to recoup. And if we add 391 to $475.89, it's a negative value, keep in mind, because it's still an expenditure. We are now at $84.43. Not quite positive, but getting there. And in fact, if we consider the revenues of year 4, which have a present value of 396, if we add that to 84.43, we end up with a value of 312.43. Now, what this means is sometime in year 4, the project has turned positive in terms of here's what we spent and here's how long it took us to recover those costs. Now, for our purposes, we keep things simple. Payback happened when the things turned positive. It happened in year 4. You could try to sort of go down into a more micro level. And if you assume that costs and revenues are proportional month over month, you might be able to calculate and say, well, it kind of happened in year 3 and the 4th month, right? Or the 3rd month or the 2nd month. So it doesn't quite take 4 years for us to recover our costs because we're getting flows on a monthly basis, more or less. And so it's not exactly year 4, it's sometime between year 3 and year 4. But for our purposes, really all we have to look at it is say that the discounted payback period or payback occurs in year 4. After that, right, everything else that is earned or any positive cash flows, revenues, only sort of sweeten the pie, sweeten the pot, so to speak, because these are now, further revenues that go above and beyond what we spent and that add to our bottom line positively, but we've recovered what we had to spend for this particular project. And if you remember, or if you recall through the lecture, the shorter the payback period, the better, because that means that we're not waiting an extremely long time to get our money back. Because again, the future is uncertain. We saw what happens, although it's a once in a lifetime event of a pandemic. Had we projected projects, let's say 4 years ago, any organization that's still trying to recover its money. And we are in a situation right now where revenues might be impacted. All kinds of things are put on hold, or all kinds of negative consequences as a result of the pandemic. If that project 4 years ago is still trying to recover its money, chances are it never will. So in this case, the shorter time that you get your money back, the better, because that eliminates a lot of risk of things happening. And I think that just makes logical sense, right? When you invest in something, the earlier you get your money back, the better. The longer you have to wait, the more things can go wrong, and thus, causing a lot of difficulty, not just for the organization, but if you look at it from a personal point of view.